Jordan,
Michael,
do you consider yourself a good driver?
Well, let's use the facts. We'll use the facts here.
Let's use the recent facts.
In my entire life.
No.
Yes. Hey, facts don't care about your feelings, Michael. Let's look at the facts. In my entire life, I've been in one accident, and it was not my fault, ruled legally. Guy T-boned me when he was doing an illegal left turn. I was going through an intersection. Other than that, I've never been in an accident.
So a lack of personal responsibility on that one, but keep going.
Legally.
Not your fault.
They proved it. I did nothing
Victim
wrong.
mindset.
I have had my license suspended because I didn't pay speeding tickets when I was 18 and 19.
Okay.
I got a speeding ticket right before I moved to Israel. And in my head, I was like, whatever, I'm moving to Israel. So I'm not going to I was 23. I was 23, I think. I'm moving to Israel. I'm ready to go. I'm literally leaving in like 2 days. I get a speeding ticket. And then I say, I'm not going to pay it because I'm leaving the country anyway. And I had a one-way ticket. I was like, whatever, doesn't matter. I end up getting the job with Gary. Thanks to you, I moved back within like 10 months, and then I get pulled over within 48 hours of landing back in the States for speeding again. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and the cop is like, not only were you speeding, you have an outstanding ticket for the past like 10 months. Your license is officially suspended. And I was like, okay, well, like, all right, cool. I'll just like drive it. He's like, no, you can't drive. It's suspended as of right now. And it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, we're towing the car, find a ride home. And I remember I called my buddy Adam Pine. I was like, bro, I need you to come pick me up. But that was when I was like 23. I only have one lifetime accident, not my fault. I think I'm a pretty good driver. You're going to say I'm not a good driver because of like the one incident when I turned off the sound on my Waze so that I could pay attention to the conversation, so I missed the exit. But I'd say I'm a pretty good driver. But now you have your... No, that's it.
No, keep going. Keep going. And then what happened? No, what happened? You missed the exit.
I don't
and then
fully
what?
remember. I don't fully remember. That's what...
It was 3 days ago.
You know my memory.
You missed the exit, and then, which was completely reasonable. So then we... turned around and came back, and then what happened?
I almost missed the exit again coming back that way. Mm-hmm. I was so invested in our conversation.
Stop. No. Stick to the facts, Ben.
That is the fact.
No. What you almost missed the exit, but then you didn't. Yep. So you quickly swerved. There's like it's not like a normal it's not a normal exit. It's like 2 lanes here, 2 lanes here. And you were in this lane, and there's like a cement blockade here, and you got in right in front of the cement blockade, although there happened to be a person in that lane. You're like, oh, geez, and then you swerve hard. It was, look, it happens. It happens. But I said something along the lines of like, I don't remember what I said. I asked you about your driving. You were like, this is definitely going to make it on the podcast. And I said, yes, it is.
I knew it. Yep. What do you think? Am I a good driver or no, based on your brief experience in my car?
I'm not even going to base it on that. I'm going to base it on your personality. You're someone who needs a lot of stimulation.
I don't text and drive. I don't do that.
I don't think
look
you do.
at Instagram while I'm driving. I don't vehemently against that.
That's something that people get canceled for these days, huh? I actually remember what I was going to say last episode, which was talking about the current state of comment sections on social media, comparing 2023 to 2015. So we should definitely do that here. That'd be fun.
Okay.
But
yeah, let's do that.
Just knowing your need for stimulation, it seems like it'd be boring to just like, drive 5 or 8 over, like 10 over in the lane, like not changing lanes a lot, just looking straight ahead, not looking at like the tree or the sign or the bird or like whatever's going on, looking at other people in the car, but just to like pay attention and drive for 20, 30 minutes seems like it'd be something that
it's very challenging for me.
Yeah.
That's why I usually call you while I'm driving. I need like some interaction.
Extra stimulation
but if no one's picking up the phone, I'm in big trouble. Dude, I don't know if I've ever told you this story. So when I went to the University of Delaware, I would drive to and from the University of Delaware. Like when I was at the beginning of the semester, the end of the semester, I would drive to and from for Thanksgiving. And I was driving by myself, and it was like a 7-hour drive.
It's not fun.
And this is before I didn't have Instagram or anything and all of that. But I still had my same personality in terms of like needing that stimulation. And so I would call my friends. I'd call Adam Pine. I didn't know Adam Pine at the time. So I wasn't calling Adam. I was calling my buddy David. I was calling my mom, whatever it is, my family in Israel. But eventually after 7 hours, you're left on your own. There's no one you can talk to. So have I told you the story? What I used to do?
Mm-mm.
Bro, I used to call random numbers. I would dial like a random number. I would have no idea who I'm calling. And I don't know, 50% of the time, someone would pick up and be like, hello. And I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And they'd be like, who is this? And I would say, this is a true story. My goal was to try and have a real conversation with people that I didn't know. And so I would be like, listen, my name's Jordan. I'm driving back from the University of Delaware. I'm just looking for someone to have a conversation with. And 95% of the time, they just hang up immediately. I had some real amazing conversations with people who I didn't know. Like only a handful. It wasn't a lot, but there were a handful of people who I would just talk to for like 45 minutes on the drive home.
So that's unbelievable. I almost don't believe. I believe you, but I can't believe.
I swear on my life.
I believe you. This reminds me of when I asked you if you ever are just on an airplane late at night flying, like looking out the window and just like plotting and planning and like thinking about your life. And I was going to say, you ever sit there for like 45 minutes and you were like 45 minutes. I thought you were going to say 45 seconds and I don't even do that. What I'm very curious because there's sayings about like, and this obviously varies from person to person, but how people have like a very rich inner world or like inner dialogues, inner monologue, like to think, like to like be in their own head. What happens if you are just in, or is that maybe like based on MBTI and like personality type, like you just don't even spend time in your own head? That's just not the way your brain works. I don't know.
When I'm spending time in my own head, it's usually planning.
Okay.
So I'll be planning for something. I'll be planning strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be planning, like right now, last night, for example, I was planning because I want to build this whole jujitsu business thing that I've told you about. So there's a lot of planning. Maybe I should do, I'm coming up with ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way that my personality works is as soon as I have an idea, I jump on it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's make this post. So for example, last night I was on HTBPT for like 45 minutes, just coming up with different ideas and trying to learn how to use it better, which I think I'm getting a good handle on it. It's pretty insane. But if there's nothing that I can do to take action, like when I'm driving, then at that point I'm like, all right, well, I can't do anything. So I can have all these plans and stuff, but just thinking about it doesn't really do anything for me. So then it's very difficult for me to just sit there and philosophize.
So when you call a random person, you're trying to get better at talking to people?
Yeah. I was literally like, the goal was, can I get my point across and make them like me quickly enough to where they see the reason to stay on the phone with me and just talk? And then we have a legit conversation. It's very nice. But like there was a goal there. Like, how can I get what I need to get across within 15 to 24 seconds of this phone call to where this person is like, oh, you know what? Like, he seems pretty genuine. And like, let's just go. I'll give him another minute. That was the goal. So yeah, it was like, let's just see if I could do it. And it was fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. Far more fun than just being in my head.
I'm guessing that no one has ever done that before. I think you're the only person that's ever called random numbers on a long road trip just to talk and try to keep them on the phone. I truly don't think that's ever happened.
Like people have done prank calls, but no one's like legitimately tried to have real conversations with random people.
Correct. Just to like fill boredom. Yeah. I called everyone who I know. By the way, I'd be exhausted if I talked to everyone. And then next thing you're like, oh, there's no more people. I'm dialing random numbers.
You would just be burned out. You'd be like, oh, God.
Dude.
Finally, peace and quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you drive, do you listen to music or podcasts, or are you just silent?
My as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, the internet has ruined my brain. And so now I infrequently drive in silence because I realize how good it is for me, and I really enjoy it when I do, but usually audiobook, podcast, or music.
Okay. What's like the most common audiobook, podcast, or music?
Probably podcast.
Any good ones?
Yeah. Yeah, lots of good ones. Should we go through?
Yeah. Who do you listen to? Do you know who I've really liked recently is Russell Brand.
Russell Brand is absolutely brilliant.
I think he's one of the greatest speakers of our generation. He never says He's so articulate and well-spoken in his vernacular. It's unbelievable. Love that guy. But who are you listening to?
I listen to the All In podcast weekly. And then there's a handful where I'll look and see who the guest is and listen like once every so often, depending on the guest. And that's, I have here Rogan, my boy Danny Miranda, My First Million, Peter Attia. Those are the big ones.
Got it.
Calling random numbers. I
can't believe I never told you that before.
That's just rich.
I told my mom that once. She was like, "What are you doing?"
I'm not that surprised. Should we dive into? Oh, do you want to talk about comment sections?
Sure. I don't know where you're going with it.
Well, the other day we were talking. We can cut this if we want, or not go down this road.
Let's do it.
But you were like, fucking comment sections, because you had posted something and there were like, I don't know, 3 to 8 people who were just being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian in the comment section.
I'm trying to remember which post it was. Let me look it. Oh,
it was about a shoulder,
the French fry post.
It was oh yeah, there was that, but then there was the shoulder press.
It was the shoulder press post.
It's like, oh, you
should.
Yeah. But and then we were romanticizing 2015 comment sections, which were amazing.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I think it's, you know why? I think it's because there are a couple things. I think number one is sometimes people who don't follow you will find your post randomly and they'll just vehemently disagree with it for whatever reason. And then because they don't know you, and they've got so much time on their hands, they're just going to leave a comment, like a mean, stupid comment, whatever it is. Whereas back in 2015, I think it was, number one, social media was still like so relatively new. People were afraid to be like just outrageously rude to someone they don't know. They're like, well, this isn't right. I'm not supposed to do that. And then also you were mainly seeing people that you knew at that time. And so you weren't going to just be a dick to someone that you know.
And if you don't know them in real life, people you follow, like you're seeing their content because you want to see their content. It's not coming across in some form where this is the first time you've ever seen that person. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, did I tell you what happened with that guy who like had all the anti-Semitic shit in my DMs? Like I know, like I told you a little bit. There was the guy who was sending me like the terrible, awful anti-Semitic stuff.
Well, then he apologized.
I'm blasting him.
Yep.
So at first we had a strong back and forth where he was like just trying to justify what he was saying.
Oh, you didn't post that part?
No, I was like, whatever. I already did my job. Like I blasted him. I don't need any more. I'm not going to keep bashing him. I don't like when people I don't want people to just keep elongating this stuff. Listen, I said what I needed to said. This was beyond inappropriate and disgusting. That's what I don't need to keep berating people with how stupid this guy is.
Yeah. And he like, for people who didn't see it, he's like gas chamber, like you fucking Jew, like that
entitled
kind of stuff.
Jew, like post a picture of my daughter, just like Jew, like just weird stuff.
Yeah.
So we had that probably like an hour, maybe like 30 minute back and forth of him just trying to defend it. I invite him on my podcast. And I was like, hey, I have an idea. Like, how about we come on my podcast? You can give your side of the story and you can try and educate thousands and thousands of people with what you're saying. And then he was just like, nah, whatever. Like, I don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool, fine. That was it. Probably within about 90 minutes, I get another message being like, hey, man, I made a big mistake. Like, I'm really sorry. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I've realized that, and I know he definitely got messages from my followers, but what he said was I was very impressed. He was like, listen, the truth is I'm a very unhappy person. And I took it out on someone who's more successful and helping more people than I am. And I apologize. And the reason I was impressed is because he could have just said an apology to get me to take it down and to stop people from messaging him. It was a very, like, unless he was dailing me, which he could have, but like it was very introspective. And so I ended up taking it down, putting that like apology up. And he's continued to message me for the last 3 days, every day. Basically just being like, man, I feel so bad for what I did. I'm really sorry. It opened every day he's messaging me. On my birthday, he was like, brother, I hope you have an amazing birthday again. Like just going over the top. And like, I'm being like, man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But I thought that was such a unique experience to have where someone's coming at like, I don't think he knew what he was fully understood the depth to which he was sinking to when he had that anti-Semitic stuff. Mm-hmm. But then once it was brought to his attention and he could really have some more introspection, like he's been nothing but wonderful.
You think him getting hog piled on for an hour was like woke him up?
I think I don't think it would have changed if that wasn't part of it, for sure. But so for example, like I think that was a huge part of it. But I also know many other people would have gotten hogpiled on and they would have just blocked everybody and just continued to believe what they believe and dug their heels in deeper and gone into the forums that are all about that stuff and just found the people who agreed with what they were saying. Whereas for whatever reason, this guy went the complete opposite direction, which I thought was super interesting. So yeah, but I know this is just like on the topic of comment sections and people sending weird shit.
Quick, do you remember your agreeableness rating on the Big Five personality test?
I don't. I don't even remember taking that test.
It says a lot about the all-nighters of the 2017 to 2019 era. I don't even remember taking that test. Yeah, we both.
What's your agreeableness level?
I'm more disagreeable, but not like, I'm not like the boss who takes pleasure in firing people. Like I'm not that level of disagreeable. I think
you're definitely more disagreeable than I am.
I don't think I am, dude. That's where I was going with it is you like actively want, but I'm definitely not more disagreeable with you. Love confrontation.
Dude, you're way more disagreeable.
Absolutely not.
Dude, you have no problem saying like, maybe it depends on the situation. Right? Where if it's something that is like that, I have no problem getting into it with someone. But I feel like you're in other situations, like you have no problem. Like, no, this is what I want. Just do this. You know what I mean?
You know what? I know you're talking about things like scheduling a podcast, for example.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's the public facing nature of it. So if it's an argument in the comment section, or if it's getting on a podcast and debating someone, you enjoy the winning aspect of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Got it. So it's not necessarily that you're seeking disagreement. It's that you're seeking victory.
Well, no. I'm seeking victory and education.
Of course. You're the people who are reading it are going, yes.
Yeah. There's like a competitive aspect to it.
I think your agreeableness was like 8.
How's the score function?
I don't know, 100 to 1. And
the closer to 1, the more disagreeable you are?
No. Yes. It might have been the other way around. I don't remember.
Dude, I feel like you're super disagreeable.
I don't think so. I actually know that I'm not. I know that I'm just somewhat disagreeable. I think you're super
pretty disagreeable right now.
Well, that's because I know the answer. Any practical words around comment sections in the current era?
Yeah, here's what I think. I think of it like, imagine when you go out in public now, and I think people are more aware of this now than ever, especially if you have a large audience. But even if you don't, everything you do when you go out is on camera. Everything. You are not private ever. Even in your own home, there's like stuff that's being recorded and whatnot on your phone. But I'm talking about in public, you go out, cameras everywhere, everything.
By who?
Don't get me started on that, Michael.
Which government organization?
Every government organization. Oh, dude, we didn't even talk about JFK.
Yeah, I just
we didn't even
that.
talk about that. That's not for this podcast. Well, maybe later on. But anyway, you're very well aware when you go out in public. We see videos online all the time, whether it's on an airplane, someone's freaking out and someone takes out their phone and starts filming, or in a parking lot, someone's doing whatever. Like there's always eyes on you, always. That is even more pronounced in your own comment section because it's your comment section. There are always eyes on you. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in, you think you're only debating or arguing with the person that left the mean comment. In reality, you're putting on a show for everybody else who's watching that comment section. And it is the most important thing for you is to not look like an asshole in that comment section. You're not trying to debate the person. This is a really important concept to understand. You're not trying to actually win against that person. You're trying to teach the people watching and reading the conversation the truth. And so as you're going at it with that person, you have to remember the goal is not to win, the goal is to educate the other people reading it. And when you shift the mentality from trying to win to trying to educate other people who will read this, your responses completely change. The tone completely changes. The overall point that you're trying to get across is probably the exact same, but the way in which you say it and the open-mindedness, no one ever looks good when they're being an asshole. You don't look good when you're being rude and snarky. You don't. You look amazing when you can be kind and respectful and also get your point across. And when you're really trying to teach people the correct way, unfortunately, the truth isn't always enough. You need to win them to your side as well. And to win them to your side is to be the bigger person, is to treat them with respect and to be kind about it. So that's probably the best piece of advice I can give. If someone's, whether you're doing the $1.80 strategy where you're commenting on someone else's posts and you're trying to get engagement that way, or on your own posts, don't be a dick. Always be kind and nice and factual, but be aware that people are watching, and that's who you're really trying to have the conversation with.
Two things. You said something interesting. You said to win them to your side, you need to act a certain way. Do you often win people to your side who are like hostile in comment sections? I'm
not trying to win the person I'm arguing with.
Oh, I see.
I'm trying to win the people reading.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That makes complete sense. And two, is this different for you if you're battling it out in the DMs?
It used to be. Now it isn't, because I know anyone can screenshot it and post it up. Like every conversation is always publicly available.
You still want, you're still behaving under the assumption that this could be public, but are you also trying to win?
You know, it's funny now, whenever those DMs come in, I often use it as an opportunity. And if I get a DM that pisses me off, I have an initial gut reaction of anger. And then the immediate next reaction is, I can use this as a learning opportunity. I can use this as an educational post. I can share this on my story. So rather than me immediately replying out of frustration or anger or impulse, I wait. I think, how can I reply to this so that when I post it on my story, it will resonate with more people, and that will help educate them. And also, like, ironically, it also helps the conversation go better as well, like with the actual person. But every interaction I have is, how can I use this interaction in a public way to help educate those who already follow me or those who might be on the fence about what they believe on this topic? So yeah, it's always like a learning opportunity.
I'm gonna give two other options because I think you're somewhat unique in your crowd work comedian like ability to dish and take and go back and forth and put on a performance that is simultaneously educating. I think you're really, really good at it in like the 99th percentile. The Joe Rogan or the Gary V approaches would be don't touch it. Like Rogan, just post and ghost, don't engage with comments. Or Gary's like, kind of one-off shorter type of response that is just feeling empathy and compassion for that person and like literally just wishing them well in the face of whatever they're throwing at you.
Yeah, I think the only
I know you don't like either of those, but I'm just offering those as two solutions for people who aren't going to like spend hours debating people in a comment section.
The only reason I'm going to push back on that is because I think what Gary did before he was huge was actually closer to what I do now. And I think like Rogan is that unique person who maybe he never was in the comment section. I don't know, but like Rogan doesn't need to, and Gary doesn't even need to anymore. And his strategy has changed over the years. I think when you're working with a smaller audience, it's you don't need to be funny. You don't need to have comedic humor, but I think it's a mistake not to engage in your comment section with people who are pushing back on you. I think it's a huge mistake because it's another, if you're trying to show people that you can help them and you're the coach, and then you have a comment section with 4 comments on it, and one of them is a long one completely disagreeing with you, and you reply to the other ones, but you ignore that, I don't think that looks good.
If they're debating the content and they're well intentioned, absolutely. But the majority of like bad comments aren't well intentioned debating like what you're saying in the post. They're, I can give plenty of examples, personal attacks, like just not coming from a place of genuine discussion.
If someone's doing personal attacks, I think you have 2 really good options. Number 1 is delete and block. I have no time, mental energy, emotional energy for that type of shit. So delete and block. I don't need it. The other option is like the Gary's method, which is just like, listen, I don't know if you're having a bad day or what, but I'm sending you love and I hope everything is okay. That's an amazing route. But if we're talking about someone actually talking about the points that you're making, things that you're saying that are wrong. For example, when I posted the video of The Rock and I was showing his like 20-pound lateral raises, there was a guy who was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's using momentum like crazy, da da da. And basically I went in and I was like, listen, the truth is he's not using momentum. He's like, this is a very common technique that he's using. It might look that way, but he's not. He's controlling significantly on the way down. And I gave a clear, concise response without being rude. So if it's someone who's like attacking you personally, you should feel no shame in deleting and blocking whatsoever. But if it's about the actual content and they're being at least somewhat respectful, I don't like the idea of not responding, especially with a smaller audience.
Makes sense. Depends on the nature of the comment and where the person's coming from. So much of 100%. So much of fitness is now religious, meaning like a vegan coming after you for saying something about like eating animal protein that is not, I mean, sure, you can put on a show, but you have no chance at quote unquote converting that person in that. It's similar to like someone who's on the far left coming at you about a political topic and then you trying to like sway them to the other side. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like reminding myself it's not about convincing the person I'm debating. It's for the people who are watching.
And I think you're uniquely elite at your ability to do that.
Well, I've learned from many mistakes. That is for sure.
Q&A?
Let's do it. You want me to pull it up?
Pull her up.
Okay, so here's an interesting question. I don't know if you're going to want to go on this, but it's something that the question is actually great. I like the question, but it's making me think about something I've seen in the last few weeks on social media that has been pissing me off. And we can talk about it. So this person asked, great question. Not upset at all with this question. Would a weekly step goal work like a weekly calorie goal? Would you get the same heart health benefit? So basically, what Mike and I have spoken about many, many times, we've done with thousands of clients, is you break down your client's calorie goal. Instead of saying, hey, you get 2,000 calories a day, you get 14,000 calories per week, and then you break that up over however you want. So maybe some days are 1,400 calories, other days are 2,400 calories, whatever it is. When you break the calorie goal up weekly, it can be a little bit more easy to stick to, and you can individualize it day to day because not every day is the same. So this person is asking, could you do that with your steps? Maybe some days get 2,000 steps, other days get 18,000 steps, whatever it is, and would you get the same heart health benefit? So we can talk about that. But the thing that I've seen recently, there's and I put this in quotes, a study that came out. I'm not a huge fan of the methods of the study, but basically saying the whole there's the whole debate around 10,000 steps. And be like, well, you don't need 10,000 steps. Actually, 7,500 is where like the benefits really are, which I agree with. It's correct. You don't need 10,000. 7,500 is, I think, a good one to shoot for.
Sorry, the big meta-analysis from like 18 months ago,
16,000. Yeah.
Well, no, but it was that every like 1,000 or every 2,000 leads to additional benefit all the way. I don't remember if it was 16 or 18, but all the way up to. That doesn't mean that should be everyone's daily target. But there is additional benefit in continuing to go past 10,000.
There is. It's not, there aren't tremendous benefits from 7,500 to 10,000, but there are more benefits, especially from a physiological health perspective. But even just getting 7,500 is really where that's, I think, the minimum people should be shooting for on a day-to-day basis. That's where the benefits are. You get the most benefits with the least amount of extra work. Well, a new study came out, and again, I put study in quotes because it's more of an observational thing that I think is actually more politically motivated than health motivated, saying to the effect of, well, not only do you not need 10,000 steps a day, you don't even need 7,500 steps a day. What you could just do is get 7,000 steps 3 days a week. Maybe it was 8,000, either 7 or 8,000 steps 3 days a week, and that is all you need. And this is fucking pissing me off because I feel like people are just trying to find ways to appease the people who are not getting their steps in, who are not doing the work on a day-to-day basis. This is an appeasement strategy, not an actual health promotion strategy. This is where people are like, listen, first we said 10,000 steps. And granted, there were some flaws with that, but people couldn't do that. So we dropped it to 7,500, which is frankly more accurate. But now, people are having trouble getting 7,500 steps a day. So you know what? Actually, all you need to do is get 7,500 steps a day, 3 days a week. And that's plenty. And I'm like, you are out of your fucking mind. It's just, and I've seen that and I haven't spoken about it yet publicly and I've been meaning to. It's like,
where did it come from?
I don't know. I off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Why do you feel like it's political?
Political in that, maybe political wasn't the right word. It's more, I think it's more of an appeasement strategy geared towards making people feel less bad about themselves rather than doing what they need to do to improve their health. It's like, rather than saying like, hey, the truth is you need to do this on a daily basis for as consistently as you possibly can to get the most health benefits. Instead of saying that, they're like, oh, well, just do it a couple days and you'll still be fine. It's like, no, we know for a fact that is not accurate. And I think people were upset about the 16,000 steps. They're upset about the 10,000 steps. They're upset about the 7,500 daily. It's like they're just looking for ways to get people to not feel bad, which I understand. You don't want people to feel bad, but we also have to be honest. Mm-hmm. And we can't sacrifice the truth in order to try and just make people feel better about not walking 4 days a week. What are you doing?
Look, you can follow that strategy, but then don't be surprised when you don't feel as good, when you have, lesser health outcomes over the long run.
And walking is one of those things where, and this might get more to actually answering the question at hand, which is a weekly step goal. Does that work like a calorie weekly goal? I would rather say, hey, let's start with walking 4,000 or 3,000 steps every day than just saying, well, let's just do 3 days of this. Walking and just movement in general is one of those things. You should do it every single day, period. End of story. I don't think that unless you're really sick or something is terrible is going on in your life, whatever it is, I don't see justifications for not moving. If you're really sick, you're laid up in bed, great. That like, I'm not great, but like rest, absolutely. But the vast majority of the time, you should be moving every day. And it's just, it blows my mind that there are people out there saying like, no, you actually don't you cannot move 4 days a week basically and just get all of them in on 3 days a week. Like what the, rather than like, I can't even talk about it. It just pisses me off.
Not to mention it's 7,000 3 days a week, 21, like you're only taking 3,000 steps a day. It's, yeah, I don't know what the intent of that article would be, or that research or whatever it was. It's not optimal. We know this. And
it's nowhere, it is severely suboptimal.
In terms of the actual question, I actually, look, it's technically correct that what matters for fat loss is your weekly calorie intake. Like that's technically true. You have 1,000 one day, you have 2,000 the next day, you average 1,500. Yes. I actually don't love weekly budgets. There are certain circumstances where they make sense. On an individual level, the time when like the conversation often comes up, or like the times when I don't like it is when someone overeats maybe a day or 2 days, and then they want to offset that damage by thinking about, okay, but I'm still okay for the week, so I can restrict for this number of days. It's like, look, if you had a hard time even hitting your target for a few days, then you want to go a few days going way under your current target. Like I much prefer the approach of simply getting right back on track rather than trying to offset damage. And I like this approach across the board. Like, oh, you missed a workout? No, don't try and squeeze 5 workouts into next week instead of 4 because you missed a workout. Simply get right back on track. Shift everything back a day, but simply get right back on track is a way better strategy than trying to compensate for quote unquote damage. So in the step count example, I think I think that if you give someone a weekly, so yes, your weekly step count, actually, I don't even know if it's true in the same sense that calories are true. We can talk about that. But the same slippery slope mentality exists of, okay, I can take 2,000 steps a day for these 3 days because I'm playing a ton of video games and all my friends are online and like, I'm really having a good time and I'll make up for it like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't like that approach because then you're giving yourself, you're making life harder for future you and easier for current you. And I just think a better strategy across the board, whether it's work, nutrition, fitness, like, take care of today, focus on today, do your best today. You can still be balanced. You can still do the fun thing you were going to do, but also go get some steps in this example and then worry about tomorrow, but don't put off plowing the fields until like the last couple of days, right? Do a little bit each day. I just think this applies to everything in life.
Yeah, Noah didn't start building the ark once the flood happened.
There you go. There's
the ark
the
was
analogy
built
king.
once,
Yes. Yes.
It's like you want to start building it before you need it.
Correct.
Yeah. So to be fair to the person, she did say, like, do you get the same heart health benefits? It was less about weight loss for her and more about heart. And I don't have the research on hand to support this, but I can confidently say it's not the same heart health benefits. Energy balance is what dictates fat gain and fat loss. Heart health, in the same, your heart is a muscle. Your muscles are obviously muscles. The impact on your muscles is what you need to get stronger, to build bigger muscles, to improve your cardiovascular health is very different than what you need to gain fat or lose fat. Energy balance works on what people often don't understand about energy balance, about fat gain and fat loss, is you're constantly in a state of fluctuating between lipogenesis and lipolysis. You are constantly fluctuating between gaining fat and losing fat. Always. When you eat, you are now gaining fat, right? In a very short window. Once you start eating food, insulin spikes, you are no longer burning fat, you're essentially storing fat at this point. But if you do this, if you zoom out now, not just on one meal, but you zoom over a week and you look at total energy balance over the week, cool. Now you can say you've net lost fat as a result of your total energy balance. I don't think the same thing can be said for effective heart health when we're looking at different modes of exercise. Like, I don't think you can walk 70,000 steps one day and then do nothing for the rest of the week and think that you're going to get the same heart health benefits. I don't think that's how it works. Not to mention, the heart is just one component of this. The heart is just one component of the greater system as a whole. We're looking at your muscles, you're looking at glycogen storage, you're looking at the effects on your tendons, your ligaments, your joints, your muscles, the mental health, the emotional health. There's so many aspects of this that, like, cool, let's say you do that 70,000 steps once a week. Well, your joints are probably going to be hurting like a motherfucker. That your feet are probably going to be really hurting. That's going to affect the other things you do. It's going to affect your work. It's going to affect your relationships. It's like, one of the reasons we're doing this is we're trying to balance it. We live in a very different time than humans originated in. And essentially, like, we're trying to get the exercise that our ancestors naturally got throughout the day. And I think what we're trying to do is, as much as we can, evenly space it to optimize all aspects of our life. Not go too hard one day and then nothing at all the next day, not to like go overboard here and less here. It's like, let's just try and have as much balance as we can. And while maybe one day you'll get 12,000 steps, another day you'll get 6,000 steps, like that happens. That's not a problem at all. But to think, like, the scary part is the extremes where it's like, all right, I'm going to get 45,000 steps one day, 15,000 steps another day, and the rest I'm just going to sit on my ass and do nothing. No, I do not think you get the same heart health benefits. And I think it would actually do more harm than good. It would be better than getting 500 steps for the week as a whole than not walking at all. But I don't think having 1 or 2 days of high steps and 4 or 5 days or 6 days of essentially 0 steps is a good heart health strategy at all.
Yeah. To be slightly more charitable, to the type of person who would stress about not hitting their exact daily step count every single day, like you just said, there are going to be days you're a bit under it. There are going to be days you're a bit over it. Does that net out? Yeah, it probably does, to be honest. Like 7,000 one day, 10,000 the next day, 7,200, 9,400. Like, you don't need to hit it exactly. It's on the extremes where there's like 36, 48, 72 hours of very low activity followed by days of massive amounts of activity and calorie expenditure. That's an area you don't want to go in. But if you're stressing about, making sure you're right on the number every day, and some days you're not, that's okay. That's how averages work. Some days you're going to be below it. Some days you're going to be above it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Good question.
Should I do one more?
Yeah, we'll do another question.
Okay, here's one. She wrote, the seated row at the gym. I believe she's talking about the seated cable row, not the cardio machine. How do I work those same muscles at home without that machine?
It's a fun question.
I knew you'd like that one.
It's really hard. It's not the easiest move to replicate at home. And should we assume no equipment at home?
Let's assume that there's enough to work those muscles.
Cool.
But we'll talk about it all.
Yeah, we're talking about a horizontal pulling pattern, right? Reaching overhead, a pull up or a chin up is a vertical pulling pattern, a lat pull down. Here you're pulling horizontally towards your chest. The movements at home without weights where you could replicate it are like an inverted body weight row or a let me in. So if you happen to have a very stable table that you can go underneath, and so you're laying down underneath the table, you're reaching up. If you're watching on YouTube, actually we have video on Spotify too, but you reach up, you grab the table and you pull your chest toward the table. You're hitting that same movement pattern as a seated cable row. A let me in is a an easier version of that same movement pattern, probably best accomplished, or you might have an idea on this, but like throwing a bed sheet over a door and closing the door is a good way. And then you're gripping the sheet. You're standing a little more vertically, so it's a little bit easier than the inverted row, but you're holding the sheet, you're standing, you're leaning away from the door, and then you're pulling the sheet towards your chest again. And you can kind of angle it. The more upright your upper body is, the easier it's going to be. The more horizontal your body is to the ground, the more difficult that move's going to be. And then if you have dumbbells, there's many kinds of row variations that are similar: single arm row, bent row. Yeah.
I mean, if you have dumbbells, you're fine. Dumbbell row, like any variation of a dumbbell row, batwing row or chest supported row, whatever you want to call it, is a really good one as well. I think I agree with everything you said. The other thing I'll say is, if there's one piece of equipment that if someone's training from home, the first piece of equipment I encourage them to get is a TRX. That's like the number one, because sometimes it's really difficult to have at-home exercises that target your back.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have dumbbells. It's relatively easy to do pushing exercises. Relatively.
Yep.
Especially upper body pushing. But pulling motions, whether it's vertical or horizontal at home, can be really difficult if you don't have dumbbells. Now, if you have dumbbells, you're good. Like, what's cool though is for the TRX, you can also start doing more vertical stuff as well without needing a chin-up bar. You can do inverted rows on it. You can do you can even do assisted type chin-up exercises with the TRX. And keep in mind, we're not sponsored by TRX. I would love to be sponsored by TRX though. So, if TRX is listening, or if someone wants to forward this to TRX and say, hey, you want to pay these guys to promote your shit, they're already doing it. That's one of the companies I would absolutely get paid to promote, because I love TRX.
In the spirit of being authentic marketers, while Jordan's would be promoting TRX, I'd say that I don't think it's a top 4 piece of at-home gym equipment. I still like the TRX.
You don't think so?
No.
Get out of here.
No.
All right. What's top 4?
Adjustable dumbbells, by far number 1.
Okay. Yep.
Number 2 is an adjustable bench. Number 3 is a pull-up bar.
More than a TRX. You'd get a pull-up bar before you get a TRX? Get out of here.
You already have the dumbbells and the bench. What would you actually do on a TRX that you can't do with adjustable dumbbells and a bench?
Oh, bro, so much. Number 1, with the TRX, you could do hamstring, you could do leg exercises with the TRX. You could do Bulgarian split squats with it. You could do hamstring curls with it. You could do core exercises with it. There's a lot of stuff that you can't do with the chin-up bar that you can do with the TRX.
We already have the adjustable bench, and we can do Bulgarian split squats with our dumbbells and our bench. Why do we need the TRX for that?
But you can also do you can do hamstring curls on the TRX with like a knee flexion based hamstring curl, as opposed to an RDL, which is the knee extended. So you can do that. You can do a lot of core based work.
Swiss ball number 4.
You're really going, I don't want that fucking TRX. The Swiss ball, I also agree. I would go dumbbells, bench, TRX, Swiss ball. 100%. That's my top 4.
That's a solid top 4. And putting TRX 3, I can get behind that. If
I have someone who can already do chin-ups, great. Well, I'll use the chin-up bar.
Yeah.
But considering most people that I work with, at least, like, cannot start doing chin-ups, like, yeah, we'll have the TRX inverted rows all day.
Touche. Yes, I agree with that.
So TRX, the point being, if you want to sponsor us, Mike would put you in his top 4 as well.
Depending on the person.
Maybe top 5.
Depending on the person.
Yeah, depending on the person.
Yeah.
And if Mike doesn't want to take the money that you would give us, then I will take that money. But yeah. So I don't know. How to work those muscles. Yeah, there's so many. I think, but I agree. Number 1 is adjustable dumbbells for sure. If you have adjustable dumbbells, you're good no matter what. There's just more than enough options there. And then the bed sheet one is super underrated. And you just tie a knot at the end of the bed sheet, put it over the door, close the door, and you've got inverted rows. I was doing that when my wife and I and daughter and I were all in Boston, and I was trying to do workouts at our Airbnb in Boston. That's how I was doing my my inverted rows.
Nice.
But don't try and do pull-ups that way because you might tear the fucking door down.
Good question.
Is that it?
I think that's it, brother. Thank you very much for listening. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube Personal Trainer podcast over there, we would very much appreciate your subscription. Have a great day. Weekly uploads.
See ya.